Welcome to the broadcast, my fruits. We must thank our lucky stars that our dear Catherine, Princess of Wales, is not vulgar, is elegant, will never be tacky, and will always uphold traditional royal values of never complaining and never explaining, because the disparagement this girl is going through, the way that her name is dragged through the mud and held up for ridicule by the ridiculous. Let's just bear that in mind. Anybody with a sophisticated mind and anybody who really sees what's going on throws everything that the Harkles come out with and their enthusiasts out with the trash where it belongs. But unfortunately, there are so many lunatics in this world, there are so many fruitcakes emerging, coming up, especially through the younger generations, and not to say some of the older ones who have taken far too many meds or not enough. Fruitcake alert, fruitcake alert. All those that type away and get all exercised on the Twitterati, the Facebookerati, Instagrammerati, because no one else in their actual real life wants to hear them or listen to them. So they'll yee-haw, yippee-doo-dah. They have found their way. They don't even have to show their face, their hideous, vile, troll-like faces, do they, my dear? They are utterly disguised, utterly concealed. Type away. Can you imagine what grotty, unlit fungi these cave dwellers, these grotto lurkers must look like? In reality, well, we've seen one or two of them, and well, I am too royal to go there, but you couldn't make it up. And they call the royal family inbred. If you've seen some of these disparagers, you know that they are certainly not what you would call aesthetically pleasing. But we all have our challenges, and they are certainly challenged, and they are jealous. They are jealous of Catherine's style, beauty, elegance, and grace. They don't know, they don't recognise somebody that is pure. Yes, she's too pure to be pink. She's actually too pure for my personal taste, but I appreciate the fact that we have a queen-in-waiting who is so too pure to be pink, because, yes, her stuff don't stink, and that's how it should be for a future queen. And she is the finest example of princessdom that there is possible to have the world over, and people are jealous. They cannot handle it. They're not used to a woman with this much class in her generation. This is the kind of class that we hear about of our great-grandmothers, great-great-great-grandmothers, from a time that is forgotten and gone and over. You know, these days they will call celebrities who might be very nice, who might have some good morals, but are up there showing everything all over the place. Every crevice, every device they have, they shimmy and shake it all over the place. From rock and don't you get me wrong, my jizz. Don't you get gang-handed with me. I ask you, these characters have never seen and are not accustomed to grace. They are so used to virtue signallers, to humble braggers, to all these delinquent minds, that they just don't recognise a simple, decent, good woman with virtues who gets on with the job. Well, I will draw attention to it, as I'm sure many of you do, my dear, and we do not need to draw attention in some vulgar way as they would have anybody do, because Catherine shows us the royal way. She channels the royal spirit and she gets on with her job without complaint. So many disparagements, we'll talk about that in a minute, but firstly we will see her at work as an English rose in the Rose Gardens at the Chelsea Flower Show for their first ever children's picnic. She was glorious in pink, a silk shirt dress and espadrille wedges, and this was organised by the Royal Horticultural Society, and Her Royal Highness met with the youngsters from 10 schools taking part in the Society's campaign for gardening. Kensington Palace also shared a photograph of Her Royal Highness tending a beehive at Anna Hall. This was taken last summer and shared in honour of World Bee Day. Yes, the princess is a keen beekeeper and takes a great interest in the art of beekeeping. But let's turn to the two main disparagements that have been making headlines, and one we touched on briefly last week. We will turn to them, both emanating from the movie world and the United States. It just so happens to be coming from abroad this time. One I am going to defend and one I am not. First of all, I want to touch on Disney and The Little Mermaid, which I touched upon gently last week, but it appears that it is confirmed by journalists of note that the Princess of Wales is indeed disparaged during that movie. This is the first of two disparagements, by the way, that have emanated this week. They happen to have emanated from the movie world of the United States. I love the United States. Not so sure about the wokerati of Hollywood. So let's just put that in perspective. Well, the wokerati of Hollywood and Disney have so much to say. They have so much virtue signalling to do, don't they? So much humble bragging. Disparaging our fair princess? I don't think so, my dear. I don't think so. Not under our watch. Well, I'm going to disparage Disney, and then I'm going to defend the other disparagers. Disney first. Disney are on the outs. Outs. It may not be related to Catherine, but last year was a bomb year for Disney. They are on the outs. And it was a bomb year because two of the movies that they made were very virtue signalling, and the issues became the story. The issues became the story. That is not what people want from Disney. And I want to be clear that when it comes to Disney, putting Catherine's name in their mouth and making their petty little joke, yes, I can take a joke, as I will tell you in a minute. It is not that I think that the joke is, oh, so utterly tasteless and poor that I just can't take it. My fragile ego can't take them talking about Catherine like that. I don't care what you say about Catherine. Do as you will. Truly, it is a free world. It is not about the insult or the poor taste. And nobody has to be deferential to royalty either. No, it is about the brand of Disney. It is about the ideology that they are pushing that affects all of us. And it is also about the bullying involved. Because, make no mistake, in my opinion, it's bullying, plain and simple. Are we supposed to believe that just because Catherine is now an adult, that this playground, immature affair of picking a team and picking a side and disparaging the other no longer counts and isn't just as disgusting and disgraceful? And you are telling us, Disney, that you condone this? Bullies. And for legal reasons, I will state that I am speculating on news reports. If I am wrong, and it was just some huge coincidence that the name's Diana, that nobody ever uses these days. Wonderful name, but how many babies do you know called Diana? And even Catherine. Just so happens those two names were put in a row with regards to a little mermaid who a certain duchess has always aligned herself with, and says that, oh, I was at home at the cottage and I just happened to chance upon the Little Mermaid, and I'm a grown adult. Should I really watch it? Oh, go on then, she tells us. Blip, blip, blip. Oh, it's about a beautiful, stunning mermaid that marries a prince. She can't find her voice. She can't find... Until she gets it back. And then she takes to the stage with Glow Stanham. Oh, Glow. Glowy dear. She takes to the stage with old Glowy, with Snowy Glowy. And I am a woman of vision. I have my voice back. And with a swish of that fishy tail, she darts among the cabs and the taxis of New York and causes a great big drama. I ask you. What I'm telling you is, Disney have picked their team. And this isn't some partisan news channel or some tabloid mag where you can expect it and you can be polemic or partisan or pick a side. This is Disney, who are supposed to represent children and everybody. Are we not having any forums now where everybody is welcome, no matter their political stripe, their persuasions? You know, they love to be the ones, don't they, these types that think that they are so inclusive and so all-embracing, when really it's just a great big love fest for those Fruit Loops and fruit cakes that are like them and subscribe to their ideology, and it sucks. It sucks royally. So unless we get some very surprising and convincing reveal that actually they were name-checking someone else or it was some pure coincidence, unless we get that, I am done with Disney. They're an ounce, and you can watch them go down. You can watch them go down, my dear. Down the plug hole. They are circling the drain. Like many of these woke institutions, they have their little time in the sun, but then like ants on the pavement, they get fried. I don't know who is responsible for that line, and what I want to actively discourage is a witch hunt and mob attacks on people who may or may not have written that line. As I said, Omid Scobie's friend Zach has been discounted by Disney to Richard Eden. Not that I think whether it was a friend or not that anybody should be going after him, because in my opinion, it's not about the screenwriter, it's not about the process, it's about the producers as a whole signing it off. Who co-signed this? Who got it out there? You know, I had a little look around. The director is Rob Marshall, and he's probably, you know, I don't know who gets final say-so over these things in this circumstance. They're also subject to various shareholders. Disney are. But Rob Marshall, all I can say is I've never liked any of his work that I've seen. I'm sure he's a very nice guy. Perhaps he had nothing to do with this, but he is the director of it, and I will say he left my heart sinking when I saw Memoirs of a Geisha, because that is one of my very favourite books of all time by Arthur Golden. I think it is such a fabulous book. I've only read it once because I can't bring myself to read it again because it was so good. I'm saving it up, you know, if I live till I'm 95, then I might read it then one more time. But one off, I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful book. So it had a lot to live up to anyway. Nobody could have done a movie as well as the book, but I thought the film was a real damp squib. I thought it was a failure. A failure. And the CEO of the last few years has been Bob Iger. But this was interesting because Bob Iger, and I think I reported on it at the time, was named Knight of the British Empire for services to foreign relations between the UK and the US. Yes, he was one of the Queen Elizabeth's final 2 knights. Yes, an honorary knighthood he got for the British Empire, a Knight of the British Empire, this Bob Iger character. Can you believe it? And even if this was some accident, some chance of fate that the 2 names were put together without any intention whatsoever, I still don't really buy that it would have gone under the radar, because hundreds of people would have seen it before it was confirmed and released, and I'm sure people would have drawn attention to the fact, you know, Diana, Catherine, those names belong together. So don't tell me that it went completely under the radar and was a coincidence. Don't tell me that. You will not pee on my leg and tell me it's raining in that manner. And I would like to know who it was at the top of the tree that co-signed it and got it out. You know, it sounds that Bob Iger was a completely great fan of the late Queen, so I find it unlikely that he would have realised what was going on and co-signed it, but who did? Who was sniggering away in the background? Well, it's been all over the press this week, so I'm sure Mr. Iger would have got wind of it. If there is innocence, then I would like him or a representative right out there to come forward and explain and clarify for us. And if it's believable, then I will renege what I am telling you right now. But as it stands, goodbye Disney. We thank you for the old days when you were something really special. But as for now, send my love to Daisy Duck. And by the way, I say all of this with great reluctance. Great reluctance. We are talking about Disney. We are talking about the home of the Mary Poppins movie. You know, we are talking about the home of greatness, of great American greatness. And this is what it's become? Some factory, some machine of machinations that cater to fruitcakes? Have a slice of fruitcake. No, my dear, we're fruit tarts and we are quite picky about the fruit that we pick over. The other controversy of late involves one of Meghan's besties, Priyanka Chopra, who appears in the Amazon Prime series Citadel. Now, the press have been reporting that a crude insult was made regarding Catherine. Well, I beg to differ. Yes, it was crude, but I don't think it was an insult, although you could say it was insulting to put a future queen's name in their mouth. But I think there's been rather a lot of pearl clutching going on here, so I will speak out in the name of freedom, in the name of freedom fighting. Priyanka Chopra plays a spy in this affair, and she is seen speaking with a crime boss, I think through an earpiece. And she says, as part of her dialogue to the boss, she asks him, I think, for help to break into the office of a head of the armed forces. And he replies, "The chief of the armed forces? You might as well have asked me to get between the legs of the Duchess of Cambridge." So this is what's been making headlines. You might as well have asked me to get between the legs of the Duchess of Cambridge. That's what it was. Well, some are outraged by this, some are outraged. Now, from my perspective, I am not remotely outraged. Although I will say, I think there would be a commotion. I think there would be a completely different story if she wasn't white and perceived as upper class, although she's really more middle class. Middle to upper, I suppose, at a stretch. But if she wasn't perceived as being posh and white, if it was someone of a different demographic and they said such things, the feminists would be clutching their pearls. Oustide would be issuing a new magazine with Meghan on the cover, disparaging it, all kinds of nonsense on stilts. But I just want to pop in to add my two pence to stand up for the bawdy, the vulgar, for the offensive, for the provocative. We must have that kind of freedom. So I'm saying this because I want to show that, no, I don't get a bee in the bonnet whenever Catherine's name is disparaged. What's going on with Disney, if it proves to be true, is not about what they said about Catherine. It is about what they are saying to the world and the ideology they are propagating. And that is, in my opinion, sinister and worth speaking out on. And clapping back to. But this nonsense, I just say whatever, my dear. I would just hope that if people are vulgar and bawdy and shocking, that it's funny. The only thing that's got to offend me is if it's not funny, my dear, and then, be off with you. But this wasn't even particularly shocking, I've got to say. Come on, let's get with the program. Is this what shocks people these days, I ask you? So in that circumstance, I don't blame the producers of Citadel. I don't blame Priyanka Chopra. They can get on and do as they please, my dear. No problem with it at all. And actually, I didn't think it was especially insulting towards Catherine. I thought, if anything, it was underhandedly complimentary because it's saying that she's very ladylike. And no, you wouldn't have a chance of getting between her limbs because they are already occupied by Big William. Get my drift, my dears? Get it? Got it? Good. Well, Gayle King can't seem to make up her mind. She's been discussing this car chase with Page 6 exclusively. More on that, she says, "It's troubling to me that anybody would try to downplay what that would mean to them. That's very troubling to me. I'm just really sorry it happened. I'm very sorry they had to go through it. Everybody can have all of their opinions, thank you. But I always go back to, how did they feel in that moment? Feelings are not facts, Gayle King. And feelings are a factor if we are to function as a humane society. Nobody is denying that, and certainly not me. But facts trump feelings and take precedence for a civilized society. Do you understand? We need humanity with regards to feelings, but we need civility and a bit of sophistication in regards to fact. Facts trump feelings, my dear. Otherwise, we just end up with feeling salad and Disney salad and fruitcake salad. Do you understand? And to be quite honest, I am absolutely bored rotten of being asked to consider Prince Harry's feelings constantly. I'm sure they are as wounded and miserable and melancholy as the rest of us. The rest of the world's population, that we experience the whole spectrum, the whole kaleidoscope of emotions, my dear. But do I go round with a great big megaphone going, I feel... Well, I suppose you could say I do through this broadcast. But I am not here with all my sob stories, and believe me, I could cry you a river. I could cry you a river if I really wanted to, and do my biggest X Factor sub-story audition for you all, but I do not believe in such vulgarity, nor do I want to. I don't feel the urge to share every heartache, every slight upon me. You know, I might come up here and have a good old whinge and a good old moan and a good old rant, my dear, because most of you enjoy indulging in that with me. But I do not need to come up here and ask for your particular sympathy over the way that I feel. You can take it or leave it, but I do not demand you take it. I do not write legal letters to you demanding you to adhere to what I want, despite there being no law in relation to what I am asking, as they did with Back Grid. Do you understand? He has his wife and his mother-in-law to share his feelings. He's got Raphael Nachos, or whatever his polo playing friend is. He's got James Corden. He's got Adele. He's got Ellen DeGeneres. He's got Oprah. He's got Gayle. He's got his security. He's got Tom Bradby. He's got his therapists, all 60 of them. He's got the memoir world. He's got J.R. Muringer. He's got... Well, he would have had his original family if he hadn't betrayed them and left them. He's got all of those to go running to about his feelings. And Gayle King's asking us to consider how they felt about that moment in the car, when video footage seems to show something rather less dramatic. I am not denying that there was some drama afoot that night, but the lashings and dolloping of extravagance of thought, of all kinds of psychedelic notions about what was being seen, and I can understand how that scene would be triggering for Harry. Yes, I can. But some sober reflection is needed, and what isn't needed is somebody that coaxes and goads him into these dramas and these histrionics. And in New York, as we've been told, and as we can see patently in various pieces of footage, they are being followed and escorted by police at all times. So what do they really think is going to happen to them? And if they are so worried about their own security, perhaps Harry could have a word with himself and not disclose information about killing Taliban and offering the number for it. But the amusing and slightly reassuring thing for all of us as spectators to this tawdry cabaret is that less and less people are buying it, and more people are seeing them for this tomfoolery. The Prince of Wales spent a lovely day getting his legs out, and lots of praise for them by a swooning audience on his Prince and Princess of Wales channel. He was at Eton College Rowing Centre at Dorney Lake in Windsor for Mental Health Awareness Week, with crew members of HMS Audacious, and this group are taking part in a rowing challenge across the Atlantic, raising awareness and money for mental health issues in military personnel. He joined in their training exercise and had some wonderful discussions, and actually the footage was very nicely done. And the Princess Royal attended a colour parade of the Voluntary First Aid Nursing Yeomanry, an independent, all-female charity founded in 1901. Do you hear that, Duchess of Sussex? All these feminists that think they're the first people that ever tried to do anything for women, or apparently trying to do something for women, but probably dragging back the movement 6,000 years. Yes, well, this has been going since 1901, and they did it without your Archetypes podcast to try and school them, my dear, honestly. Anne joined this charity in London in her role as Commandant-in-Chief of the Historic Corps, and she watched the parade in full military attire. This charity was active in both nursing and intelligence during the World Wars, and the yeomanry are on call 24/7 and deploy multifaceted rapid response teams to support civil and military authorities in times of crisis. She also took part in a service of remembrance for National Service veterans. Isn't it splendid to be reminded of true grace and dignity without vulgarity? Thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you on the next broadcast. Leave me a juicy comment. My tip jar, privy purse, is in the description box. And channel the royal spirit. Stay fruity and always on royal duty. Toodle pip.